Okay, now we're just going to do just a quick review on simple factoring. Uh, Try to, when you first look at a quadratic, try to determine if it's a perfect square binomial, meaning the two sets of parentheses would be identical, and then therefore you would have one set of parentheses squared. And this is the trick. You look at the first term and you look at the last term and you ask, are they perfect squares? Well, x is a perfect square. 16 is a perfect square. Right here, this is positive, but the middle term is negative. 4 and 4 have to add up to -8, so that dictates that we put subtract 4, subtract 4, and then we just have to check it to make sure that it's true. X times x is x squared. X times -4 is -4x. -4 times x is also -4x. -4 times -4 is positive 16. Well, -4x and -4x does add up to -x. Since these two are identical, we can just write it as x subtract 4 squared. Boom. All right, on this next one here, let me cover all this stuff up so we don't have to look at that, be distracted. On this next one, look first to see if they have anything in common, and if not, this gets a little bit more complicated. I don't think this is one where we have to use a quadratic formula, so remember, you have to, those of you who aren't necessarily great at going directly to the double set of parentheses, so this is what you do. So imagine that this constant, or this coefficient, is A, this is B, this is C. Remember, it's A times C, so 3 times 12 is 36. And the factors of 36 have to add up to the B value. So we want any factors of 36 to add up to -13. And this is negative, this is positive, so both terms are going to have to be negative. So, well, we're not even going to worry about -36 and -1, -18, -2, -12, -3, they don't add up to -13. What about -9, -4? We have ourselves a winner. Here's the tip. These are our two factors, but because this leading coefficient is not 1, we're going to want to stop and do the grouping method. So we're going to put 3x squared. The 9 and the 3 have something in common, so I'm going to put -9x there. I'm going to put -4x. Remember, it's -9x and -4x that add up to -13x. And then I'm just going to bring +12 down. And now we have those four terms. We can do the grouping. There's that tricky subtract sign. So when we put the parentheses there, make sure you remember to change that sign. Then we have negative times a negative is a positive, like it should be. Now factor out what they have in common. These two both share 3. They both share an x. That 3 goes away, one of those x's. That reduces to 3, because 9 divided by 3 is 3. X divided by x, that cancels to 1. And what you have left is x subtract 3. So in parentheses, x subtract 3. Then we have that subtract sign. 4x and 12, they both share a 4, so that 4 goes away. 12 divided by 4 is 3, leaving x subtract 3. Then what you have is they both share an x subtract 3. And then what's left on the outside is 3x subtract 4. But remember, this time it said equal to 0. We actually, because it said equal to 0, that tells us, oh, we have to know what the x's are. Here's the fast way to do it. Look inside the parentheses. What zeroes out -3? +3. All right? And then over here, this is a little bit trickier. Ignore that 3, like, ignore that 3 for just a second. So imagine we couldn't see that 3. you could ask yourself, what's the opposite of negative 4? Well, 4. Then we can look at that attached 3 and ask ourselves, what's the inverse of multiplying 3, dividing 3? And then those would be the two x values that make that quadratic. Both of those would make that quadratic equal to 0. All right, that is it. Let me do this.